Is Arizona basketball's 8-man rotation set? How did we get here? And what are realistic expectations for next season?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show, but first, why don't we talk a little bit about Caleb Love coming back. Now, there are some people that do not want Caleb Love coming back. They are wrong. Caleb Love is very, very good. Caleb Love is an All-American. Guess what? You take All-Americans every single day of the week that you can, because a 23-year-old is going to be drastically different than an 18-year-old. I was talking about this with Matt Muehlbach yesterday. Khalid Reeves, in my opinion, is the best shooting guard in school history. Well, guess what? Khalid Reeves, as a freshman, is not better than Caleb Love as a fifth-year senior. It's just not. So when the people are like, oh, we want Josan Sanon or we want Jamari Phillips and all that, no. Like I said, Caleb Love is far from a perfect player, and I know that, last year, kind of how, the season ended, definitely had some, I think it probably rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I get all of that, but at the same time, it also is something where that Arizona is Arizona, that was a team loss. Pella was awful. Kylan Boswell didn't want to be there the entire season. It was a team loss. But again, Caleb did not play well. Caleb did not play well down the stretch. But I also don't think that that's something that's going to be a huge factor because, like I said, Caleb also has NCAA tournament experience where he played very well, got him to a Final Four, played incredibly well in the Elite Eight. I'm very glad that Caleb Love is back, especially going into the Big 12, because you definitely want players like that where, they've been through the ringer, they've been battle tested. There's a lot of different things to like about them. Caleb Love coming back is big. As far as the statistical expectation for Caleb Love, I think he's going to be something like, I don't know. I think he's going to be something probably like 17 points per game, but I think he's also going to be far more efficient. I think he's going to be more in that 45% realm. And I think he's going to get to the free throw line more. I think that that's going to be something that is going to be very, very big for this U of A coaching staff to stress to him that, if you really, really want to improve your draft stock, a big way to do that is to get to the free throw line more. I expect him to get to the free throw line more, and I think Arizona is going to be much, much better for the wear for it. So again, big, I think that's a really, really good thing for Arizona when it comes to Caleb Love and all of that. Now, when it comes to some of these other situations, then, like what else can he do? Listen, he's obviously a really good dude. The coaches love him and his teammates love him. He's a wildly popular player on this team. Tommy Lloyd has shown from everything you think that he is not scared to, if he's got to run somebody off, if he's got to say, man, this probably isn't a good fit, he's going to do it. He did that with Kerr Kriisa, obviously, and he did that with Kylan Boswell. In that, Kerr Kriisa probably just wasn't good enough, and Kylan Boswell just wasn't focused enough. Kylan Boswell was too busy partying. So, get rid of him, and you got Jaden Bradley as your full-time point guard. We're going to get to Jaden Bradley, but I do believe that Caleb Love, I think it's fair to say that he could be something like 17 points and shooting about 45% from the field, something like that. That's kind of where I'm at with Caleb Love, and I think he's going to get to the free throw line more. That's at least what I hope. Okay, now, next to him then, Jaden Bradley. I am very, very, very bullish on Jaden Bradley. I think that Jaden Bradley is going to be I think he's going to really surprise some people this year. I think Jaden Bradley is going to be an all-conference type performer in the Big 12. Defensively, I expect him to be first team. He's an absolute menace on the defensive side of the court, and what he can do is something that not a lot of other players could do. I mean, you look at it against Clemson, he was getting his hands everywhere. He was blocking shots. He was getting steals. He was such a disruptive force that they were essentially calling fouls on him, even when there were no fouls, just because it appeared that there had to have been a foul because he was getting so many deflections and steals. I love Bradley, and I think offensively he's much, much better than I think a lot of people give him credit for, and I think you're going to see that. I think from a shooting perspective, he's also going to be better. With dudes like Jaden Bradley, a lot of times you're like, well, what can he really do from a three-point percentage? What I look at from those spots is I say to myself, all right, let's look at his form. And it's a solid form. It's not that Mustafa Shakur weird thing where he like winds around. It doesn't look like a prayer it's going in. And he also throughout the season, he was a pretty consistent three-point. Not consistent, but he made big shots. I think a game against Michigan State. I think about the game against obviously against Clemson, making some big shots as well. There's a lot to like about his shot, and I think you're going to see him shoot about 38%. And I think you're going to see him take 2-3 shots per game. Again, I think he's going to be big time for Arizona. Very, very excited about him. And I think that this is going to be the best point guard play that we've seen under Tommy Lloyd. We thought that with Kylan Boswell going into last year. But the problem with Boswell is that Boswell did not care about, working hard and putting everything into it. I think with Jaden Bradley, he definitely cares about all those aspects, and that is going to be a good thing. So Jaden Bradley and Caleb Love, yes, please. That is the kind of a guard play you're going to need going into the Big 12. And honestly, I think it's going to be one of the handful of best perimeter units in the country. Muehlbach was talking about this the other day where he said, listen, man, I think that this is a loaded perimeter unit you've got. And this is a unit that I think is going to be ready to go for bear. So we will see. We will find it out. But like I said, I love that backcourt, and that backcourt's tough too. No weenies allowed in the Big 12. You got to be physically ready to rock and roll. And I think this Arizona team at those two positions is more than good enough. Then next to him, you got KJ Lewis. I believe KJ Lewis is the best NBA prospect on the team. I believe he was the best NBA prospect on the team last year. And there's a bunch of reasons why, but first is that he is super athletic, and he goes for everything. He wants to be able to be involved in, on defense. And I think that he's going to be a dog on the defensive side of the court. And I think he's going to be a very, very good rebounder. And I think he's going to be able to do everything. And I kind of put him in that same boat with Jaden Bradley, in that I think there's an excellent chance that he is going to be a better shooter than some people are expecting. I look at the form. I think the form is solid. And besides just the form being solid, I think that he is he just wants it. I think KJ Lewis wants to get to the league, and I think he knows he's a year away with hard work from getting there. He has a body that was obviously meant for basketball. He was blessed. He was incredibly blessed in that perspective. And he athletically, he's top notch. I mean, he's about as athletic a dude as there is in the country. And I think he's going to fit in very, very well in the Big 12, as does, I think, that entire perimeter, honestly. I think that entire perimeter fits in very, very nicely with what everybody is hoping for in the Big 12. Arizona, I think, should be much, much better for the wear with all of those dudes out there. Again, I think this is going to be a very nice thing for the University of Arizona. So those three guys, I think, are going to be really the linchpins, and I think it's going to be a more reliable perimeter than it was last year. Boswell obviously stunk. Caleb Love, very good, but erratic. I think that there's some things you got to – and with Pella, a lot of times in big games, Pella just didn't show up. Pella, you kind of wondered what exactly was going on there. I don't have those kind of concerns at all with this roster. And I think that this is going to be a perimeter that is going to be very, very good. I am excited, very excited about these three. Now we're going to talk about some of the backup options, and we're going to get to the front court. But first, let's talk about FanDuel. Check it out, FanDuel.com/locked on. All right, all kinds of good stuff at FanDuel, my friends. You can bet on Arizona basketball games. You can bet on the Big 12. You can bet on a variety of different issues. Check out FanDuel.com/locked-on. Another one of these ones where you will thank me later. You can bet, you can bet before the game. You can bet during the game. You can bet futures, and your money is good. That is the best part of all of this. Your money is good. Check it out, FanDuel.com/locked-on. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, let's talk a little bit about some of the backup options on the perimeter. Anthony Del Orso, first of all, great name out of Campbell University. I think Del Orso is an awesome kid because Del Orso is that with Del Orso, he was just totally cool. He was just totally cool with being here at the U of A. And I think that's a big thing about it, is that he was not going to basically ask for a lot of time. He wants to earn it. And I think with that's just a massive part of all of this, is that he wants to earn it. He is a good 3-point shooter. He showed some ball handling skills, and I think it's transferable. I think he's going to probably play 12, 15 minutes per game, something like that. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. But I think he's also a really good 3-point shooter, and he is a good teammate. Plus, he's going to be able to give a little bit of ball handling as well. So, again, I think with Anthony Del Orso, a very, very nice little addition. And he's a multi-year guy. I love getting multi-year players in here. Getting multi-year players in here is an amazingly good thing for the University of Arizona, and it's something that we should absolutely embrace. I'm, like I said, big fan of Del Orso and what he can do, and I could see him being a real contributor in both years, honestly. And I think next year I could see him being a contributor as well. So we will definitely find that one out. But like I said, I think with Anthony Del Orso, we are, that this is a dude that is in a good spot going forward. And Tommy Lloyd likes him a lot. I think some people wanted to hold off on the commitment. Tommy Lloyd's like, no, if we can get him, we get him, and then we deal with it. And Del Orso is that dude. I think, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes per game, something like that. And I think depending, he could play more. And next year, I think he gets an even bigger role, like Del Orso, like his game. Then you got Carter Bryant. I think Carter Bryant, along with KJ Lewis, are the two best NBA prospects on the team. And I think that he is going to be able to go back and forth from the 3 and the 4. I think he's going to get KJ Lewis type minutes as a freshman, where he plays 12 to 18 minutes per game, maybe 16 to 20. I don't know exactly, but I think that's also going to be flipped back and forth from the small forward and the power forward position. He is he's got immense talent. I think the thing with Carter is just to continue to bring it on a game-by-game basis. And if he brings it on a game-by-game basis, all of this is going to work itself out. Just an incredibly talented kid. You look at his body frame, you look at his feel for the game, you look at his shot. I know his father took umbrage with it. I disagree. I think there's a lot of Jason Tatum in his game, and that to me obviously is a big compliment. But watching him, you just know that this is a kid who his best basketball is certainly in front of him. And he is, I think he's going to have every opportunity to be able to showcase that. And I think he's going to bounce back and forth from the 3 to the 4. Now, keep in mind too, a lot of people are like, well, you need to start at the 4 or whatever. You're still dealing with COVID seniors in the Big 12. You're dealing with dudes who are 22, 23, 24, 25 years old. I mean, heck, Jermaine Couisnard last year was 26 years old. You've got to remember that. That is a big difference. And this squad, I think, and that's something that you definitely got to keep in mind. I do think that he is going to probably be able to push his way onto the court sooner than later. And then I think too, kind of like what we're projecting with KJ Lewis, I think as a sophomore, he is going to be an absolute dynamo. And I think he's looking at being a top 10 pick. I think KJ Lewis is looking at being a top 10 pick. I know a lot of people don't necessarily see that, but I think both these young men, they're both 2 and done type players. And I think they're both going to be very, very good for the University of Arizona. We will continue to obviously talk about them, but in that first year, it's going to be tough for him to play the 4 exclusively, or but he's going to play it a little bit for sure. Chris Rounds, I think, is probably salivating, imagining getting a hold of Carter Bryant and what he can do. Now, let's talk a little bit about where we stand with Trey Townsend. I am a big Trey Townsend fan. I think that Trey Townsend was, again, he's not perfect. I wish he was more athletic. I get that. But I think Trey Townsend's what Arizona needed. Arizona needed guys that when the going gets tough, they can get buckets. We've seen that in all their NCAA tournament losses, that they didn't have guys that could get buckets. And that is a problem. You need guys that can get baskets. And with Trey Townsend, he can do that. That is something that we saw, whether, it was against North Carolina State, where he dropped 31 and 13, whether against Kentucky, where he dropped 17 and 11. And I'm sorry, I don't care about the efficiency per se, because he was being double and triple teamed in that. He was the Midwest Conference Player of the Year. And going into those games, people knew who they needed to stop. It's not going to be that easy for them to stop him at Arizona. And I think that he's going to also get a lot of rebounds. But I think the part about him that is very, very underrated is his passing. You look at what he did. There was a lot of games: 5 assists, 4 assists, 6 assists, 3 assists, and I think he's going to be a very good passer for the University of Arizona. And I think he's going to fit in very well with what Tommy Lloyd wants to do. And here's one for you spacers. I think that he is going to shoot. I think he's going to shoot a fairly hefty percentage from 3-point range as well. He is I think he's shown that he's got good form. And I think that's kind of like with Keyshawn Johnson. I think that Tommy Lloyd, that was probably a little bit of his selling point, that, hey, man, you come here and we're going to give you the opportunity to shoot the three just like Keyshawn. And you saw how that worked out for Keyshawn. So Tommy Lloyd, I think, is going to sell that one. And I think there's a lot to sell with that is very, very good for the University of Arizona. All right. Now, but as far as the statistical expectations, I still think that we are at the stage where 12 points, 8 rebounds, something like that. Umar Ballo, leader of men, got a lot of rebounds last year just by being big and in space, where I think Trey Townsend is naturally a good rebounder. I don't want to compare him to Charles Barkley, but I'm just saying some people just naturally, even though they're smaller, they just have a natural knack for getting to the bucket and getting that in a position where they can get those rebounds. I think that's what's going to be a big part of it for this, what he's going to do. Again, 12 points, 8 rebounds, but here's where I'm going with it. I am going to go 12 points, 8 rebounds, and I'm going to go 4 assists. I think he's going to have the second most assists on the team, barely behind Jaden Bradley. Again, very, very bullish on him. I think that's exactly what Arizona needed, and I think he's going to be very good in that role. And again, wish he's probably a little bit more athletic, but I think he's also going to be the dude who is going to – I think he's also going to be the guy, though, that is probably going to be an all-conference type performer. So that's kind of where we are at with that. Then you've got Mount Crevis. Mount Crevis is the reason that Umar Ballo, leader of men, was allowed to basically go to Indiana. As much as I like Umar Ballo, leader of men, he's not worth $1.2 million. Good on him that he got it, for sure. But Umar Ballo is still, as much as I like him, he's still somewhat limited. Can't shoot free throws at all. It got progressively worse throughout the season. And it's not like he's got like a ton of post moves, but he was obviously very good. I don't want to pull the sheer thing where I'm just like bashing him after he already leaves. That is not the case. But Mount Crevis has more skills than him. Now, again, he's not nearly as physically strong naturally, but Crevis has the jump hook from both sides. Crevis can actually shoot a little bit. I think you're going to see that this year. The Crevis can shoot a little bit. He's also 7'3". I think he's got very much the feel of a Gonzaga type player. Like I said, I like him a lot. I think that he is going to take a real step forward this year as a sophomore. And then I think as a junior, I think he's going to be an All-American. He's got very much of that trajectory. I think for this year, though, I'm looking at something like 10-6, something like that, maybe a little bit more, 11-6, 11-7. And then the following year, I think you're looking at probably 16-9. He's just got to continue to get stronger. Chris Rounds has got to be salivating looking at what he could possibly do with him. And that's something that Chris Rounds obviously knows what he can do. Now, There's a bench player that we need to discuss and a couple wild cards. But first, game time. Check it out. Game time, my friends. Here's the deal. A game time. Let's say you're looking to go to an Arizona basketball game, but you don't know where to find tickets because it's a tough ticket to find. Game Time says, do not worry about that. We have got this. Game Time, my friends. With Game Time, download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, Game Time. This is where it is at. It's a lot of fun, and you can get concert tickets. You can get sporting event tickets. You can get a lot of different tickets at Game Time. So again, check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about Tobe Awaka. Very much like Tobe Awaka. I discovered him at Culinary Dropout, by the way. But Awaka, a big dude, and he's going to take up a lot of space. What you need dudes like that in the Big 12, and I think what Tommy Lloyd is selling him on is that you're going to come in here and play 20-something minutes per game this year as kind of that backup swing big, and then you're going to start the following year. With Awaka, you look at his rebounds per minute, his points per minute, he just fouls a ton. But I think that's something that Arizona can obviously work on. But if he plays 20 minutes, I think you're going to see him get 8.6 rebounds. I mean, he is a big dude, and you need players like that in the Big 12. That is going to be absolutely necessary for the Wildcats. And Awaka is that dude. He is like I said, he's just a really nice player to be able to bring in off the bench in the Big 12, especially from a physicality perspective. And I think that he's going to work a ton skill-wise and get much, much better. Okay, now, Henry Vesar and Conrad Martinez. I'm not expecting anything out of them this year, but if they provide something, that is awesome. They both have something that you can like. With Henry Vesar, he can run the court and block shots. He was probably the best shot blocker on the team, and the coaching staff views him as somebody that can shoot threes. So I guess we will find out about that one. I don't know that I haven't really ever seen it with Henry, but if he can block shots and be effective, then that is certainly a good thing for the University of Arizona. Then with Conrad Martinez, I think the problem with Conrad is that Conrad is just 5'8". And in the Big 12, I don't know that works. I think when you're playing Oregon State, Washington State, you can get away with that. I don't know that is going to work. But when he did play last year, he was good, and he was ready to rock and roll. Tommy Lloyd likes him. He's going to probably have a shot at some point this season, so we will find out about Mr. Conrad Martinez. Now, Will Riley. 6'8" wing, 5-star kid, going to likely reclassify. Arizona is all in on him. They would love to be able to add him to this class obviously as a wing. You would replace Josan Sanon with Will Riley, which would be the most Arizona thing ever, where you replace one 5-star that you did, that was probably going to be a little bit of a problem, with another 5-star. Riley is that dude, though. Riley is very, very talented, and he's definitely got an NBA future as well. Maybe if you can get 2 years out of Will Riley, kind of like with Carter Bryant, you're looking at an absolute monster, a machine, and that is obviously a good thing. All right, now tomorrow we're going to talk some Arizona baseball, obviously. We're going to talk more Arizona basketball, maybe get into a little bit of recruiting as well. But again, awesome times. The thing with Arizona is there is no off season because it's all fun. There is a lot of stuff, obviously, to like about the U of A, and that's why we are all here. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. Sorry about my glasses right there. We will be back with you tomorrow, but have a great rest of your day, and go Wildcats.